Good evening, Instagram. Welcome back to another episode of the Wilderness Fitness Podcast. I'm your host tonight, Dr. Rob Minturn, coming at you live from Alaska, still in Wasilla, and I've been here for about 2 months now. But coming to you guys a little bit later. I don't normally do these on Sundays, but I still wanted to get a podcast episode out this week. My brother was visiting from last weekend, came up with a high school buddy of ours, and then my brother stayed for the rest of the week. So we ended up doing two fishing runs down to the Kenai, and we caught 30 fish total. So it was a good fishing trip. But we were fishing until I think it was 1:30 in the morning on Wednesday night, and we got to bed around 3. So I was not fit to do a podcast from my truck Thursday morning. So I wanted to wait to do it until he was gone, so that way it would sound halfway intelligent when I did this. So. Um, Tonight, we're going to be talking about weight loss and performance and how you can't do both. You have to decide, hence the title, You Can't Ride Two Horses with One Ass. This title came to me. I want to talk about the title because it's pretty unique compared to what I usually put on for a title. Um, we were down getting ready to pour concrete. We're on our way to pour concrete. My buddy Clint from home, we went to kindergarten together. We're still good buddies, and we uh we were on our way to go pour concrete for him, and we were talking about I want to say it was an ex-girlfriend of his or something like that. I don't remember how she was on the bus, off the bus, on the bus, off the bus. And basically saying he's the phrase that he came up with is you can't ride two horses with one ass. Like you got to decide what you're going to do with your life. And it resonated with me as far as like weight loss, performance, like making a decision. So that's where the title of this came from. So whether it's appropriate or not, I don't know in terms of PC, but I think it was very appropriate in terms of having to choose one. So anyway, let's dive on in. So what this means, and I've talked about it already, you've got to decide what you want to do, weight loss or performance enhancement, because they're both going to look pretty similar in the gym, but in terms of caloric intake, it's going to look different. That's the main, in my eyes, that's the main difference. Sleep is just as important for weight loss. Sleep is just as important for performance enhancement. We'll touch on that a little bit in each category. But the main difference is going to be the nutrition and basically the caloric intake. That's going to drive either weight loss or performance enhancement. Um, there always is an exception. It's healthcare. There's always an exception. So when you do or when someone's a newbie to fitness, and when I say newbie, I mean 6 to 12 months or less of consistent training, where you've been going at least 3 times a week with consistency there for 6 to 12 months. If you fall into that category of doing it less than 6 to 12 months, you have the beautiful option of doing both, where you can improve your performance, but also lose weight. So, and we'll touch on that a little bit too. So let's talk about weight loss first. So how do you achieve this? And I touched on this earlier a second ago about the caloric intake is basically the main driver of weight loss versus performance enhancement. So you need to achieve a caloric deficit. And there's a few different ways that you can achieve a caloric deficit. One is eating less. So you're going to eat less calories. That doesn't necessarily mean eat less food. When you decide to go down the weight loss journey, you're going to start, hopefully you do some sort of calorie counting so that way you have an idea of what you're putting in your mouth. You don't necessarily have to count calories for the rest of your life. I find it very tedious. I've got a million irons in the fire right now, and counting calories just is not making the top 5 daily priority list, which neither good or bad, but that's just the way it is. I'm mindful of my protein intake, but my weight, I've dropped a little bit. I'm trying to drop a little bit more before elk season, but I've dropped a little bit, just being mindful of what I'm taking in and modifying and making little tweaks from there. Um, but plain and simple, you have to eat less in order to lose weight, or you have to eat fewer calories in order to lose weight. When you do that, you're going to look at things like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. That's going to have fiber. You're going to look at leaner proteins. That's going to keep you fuller longer. So just because you are eating fewer calories doesn't mean that you're going to always be hungry. You're going to be selecting better foods, which generally helps with hunger cravings and helps curb those appetites a little bit. So that way you're not feeling incredibly hungry between meals. So just because you are eating less doesn't necessarily mean you're eating less volume. You're actually probably going to be eating more volume, so you stay fuller longer. Another way to achieve a calorie deficit is going to be through exercise. So I'm going to touch on 3 points or three main forms of exercise with this. So cardio. A lot of folks hop on the treadmill, Stairmaster, or something like that to burn calories. It's a quick way to burn a lot of calories. I should say quick way. It is a way to burn a good chunk of calories in an amount of time and a desired amount of time. It's plain like you're burning calories while you're working. That's plain and simple what it is. The downside of cardio is that you don't necessarily, unless you're doing interval style training, you're not necessarily burning calories while you're off of the treadmill or whatever you're doing, the rowing machine, whatever you're doing. Weightlifting is another way to get yourself in a calorie deficit. And the beautiful thing about weightlifting is that it's going to enhance your muscle mass. So not only are you burning calories while you're working out, you're also improving your muscle mass, which is going to improve your metabolism because bigger muscles, more muscle requires more energy. So it's going to boost your resting metabolism. Therefore, you can have a higher caloric need for basically weight maintenance, which is a nice thing to have because then if you like to eat food like myself, you can continue to eat a decent amount of food because you have the muscle mass to support that caloric intake. The other way that folks typically try to lose weight through exercise is with high intensity interval training, HIIT training. The way that this works, and you can do this in the form of cardio. You can also do this in the form of weight training and body weight, anything like that. I should say resistance training. So that's with bands, that's with weights, that's with body weight stuff. You can do HIIT style training through cardio and through resistance training. And what this does, it's going to put your body or it's going to create a exercise post oxygen consumption. So what this is you're going to be burning calories after you're done exercising because your body's going to have to recover from the exercise that you just put yourself through. Now, our bodies are great at adapting. So if you do the same HIIT style workout day in and day out, your body's going to adapt and get used to it. So you have to change up the stimulus. You have to change up what you're doing. Otherwise, after 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to hit this plateau. And people are like, I hit a plateau after 6 to 8 weeks. You didn't change up your routine. You didn't change up your programming. That's the a big portion of continuing to facilitate progressions and weight loss, however you want to think about it, is changing up the workout routine, both in sets and reps and in movements. I'll touch on that in a little bit here. So, role of sleep. So, role of quality sleep, I should say. So, a lot of people they might get the 7.5 hours of sleep, but they feel shitty in the morning still. The role of quality sleep is super important in weight loss, not directly due to the fact that it's going to help you lose weight, right? Plain and simple, you have to eat fewer calories in order to lose weight. If you, but if you're getting good quality sleep, there's a few things that's going to help with. It's going to help with blood sugar fluctuations. I touched on that in a different podcast. I think it was the pack dumping of type 2 diabetes. I talk about the role of sleep and managing blood sugar levels. Super interesting stuff there, but it's going to help those blood sugar fluctuations, which is going to help with your appetite and help with your cravings. With good quality sleep, it's going to help uptake cortisol. Again, cortisol is not bad. Cortisol is a good hormone. There's a reason why God gave us the ability to release cortisol into the system. But when we sleep, our body should reuptake that and should get rid of that and recycle it so that way we're ready for the next day. So if we're not getting good quality sleep, again, the quality is the important thing there. If we're not getting good quality sleep, the reuptake of that cortisol is not going to be as optimal as it could be. So it's going to make it tougher to make good decisions, right? It's gonna be tougher to fight off those urges to give in to that pizza that was brought into the break room by a patient, or to those donuts that were brought in by a coworker in the morning. You've been doing good all week, but the night before you got a poor night of sleep. Your kids were up and you were up all night. You got an hour of shut eye before you had to get up before your normal time to go to work, and then your coworker brings in coffee and donuts. You're like, the hell with it, I'll try it. Right? I didn't have time to make breakfast this morning, so I'll go ahead and have this donut and coffee. If you would have taken yourself and had that good night of sleep, you may have been able to make a more sound decision in terms of not having that donut. Not that donuts are bad, right? But not having that donut in terms of a weight loss, or if you're on a weight loss journey. So that way it doesn't snowball into more decisions. So that way this doesn't transform into or snowball into other poor decisions happening later that day. You had that donut at breakfast, right? Donut and coffee. At lunch, you didn't have time to pack your lunch. You forgot your lunchbox on the counter on the way out the door because your kids were again going nuts because they didn't sleep. And so you forgot your lunch, like, fuck it, I'll just go out for lunch. And you go to the Fred Meyer, you go to some grocery store, and you walk by some sort of ad. It says low price, and it catches your eye because it's a different change in tagging. And you're like, that sounds pretty good. Again, you may not have made that decision had you gotten a good night of sleep the day before or the night before. Don't let it snowball, and getting good quality sleep helps reduce that snowball effect. Um, and then plain and simple, if you're awake for less time, you can eat, you're not able to eat for as long, right? So I mean, if you want to look at intermittent fasting, people put cutoff times like I don't eat after 7 o'clock. Well, it wasn't the fact that you stopped eating after 7 o'clock. It was the simple fact that you just started eating fewer calories because you cut off those late night bedtime snacks. So you can still eat after 7 o'clock. It just you have to look at your total caloric intake for the day and see, am I hitting my calories before 7 p.m.? Okay, sweet. Then I don't eat after 7 p.m. But if you're looking at your calories and you're like, hey, I have a couple hundred calories and it's 8 o'clock at night and you eat at 8 o'clock at night, just because you eat at 8 o'clock at night doesn't mean that you're going to gain weight. So it's not about the intermittent fasting. It's about the simple caloric intake. And if you go to sleep and you get your 8 hours of sleep or even 9 hours of sleep, again, that's less time that you're going to stuff your face. So it helps indirectly you lose weight in that regard if you want to look at it like that too. So the role of good quality sleep, yes, it does not directly impact your ability to lose weight, but it certainly has a role in making it maybe a more enjoyable process in the whole grand scheme of things. And then the final piece with weight loss and how to achieve the weight loss is your programming. The biggest hurdle for folks to overcome is especially folks who have lost weight in the past. And I know a handful of folks from home that have lost weight and they did this certain exercise routine, P90X or some sort of HIIT style routine on YouTube. And then they put the weight back on because life threw a curveball at them. And then they derailed, and now they're 5 pounds heavier than what they were. You're not alone, but like that, the way that you did things there, it did not work because you were not able to sustain it, right? The best exercise routine, the best nutrition, the best diet, whatever you want to call it, is going to be something that you can sustain. So, programming, you've got to change up your routine. Like I touched on earlier, if you're exercising for doing the same thing for 6 to 8 weeks, your body's adapted. You've got to move on from that. And if you don't know how to move on, that's where hiring a coach comes into play if you want to learn that. If you don't really want to learn that, maybe you hire someone that just writes you a workout routine and you do the workout routine. To me, I would rather know what I'm doing and be able to modify things as I go, just in case that, I have an injury or something like that pop up. I know what to do, but everybody's different with that. But having that mindset change of knowing that, yes, it worked in quotations for those of you watching the video, it worked in the past, but it didn't actually work because now you're back at square one again. But know that you have to you can do that routine again to get you started, but you've got to change that up at least every 6 to 8 weeks, but every 4 to 6 weeks is going to be ideal. Um, all right. Performance enhancement. So how do you achieve this? In terms of like calories, calorie surplus. It doesn't necessarily equate to fat gain, right? A lot of times, and we'll see this in endurance athletes, they're super conscious about their weight. They don't want to gain a ton of weight because that's more weight that they have to move up and down the mountain. So they don't want to gain fat, really is what they're saying. Uh, So when you go into a calorie surplus, as long as you're doing it in a slow, systematic fashion, you're likely going to be increasing your carbs first and then your protein intake. Fat, I don't really, there's not a whole lot of um, energy, energy in terms of performance coming from fat. Your body does not take in fat from your diet and then use it as energy. It's not like you eat a jug of peanut butter and then your body's going to use that peanut butter that you just ate for energy. So you're likely going to be increasing your carbohydrates and your protein first. Um, Let's see. With that, you're going to notice a change in the scale, and it's not going to be fat, right? You're still exercising, you're still bumping up your mileage, 10% a week, whatever you're doing, and you're going to see that scale bump up. It's because you're increasing your carbohydrate intake. Your carbs are going to hold on to water, so it's simply water weight that you're going to see change that scale. So do not freak out when you start to bump up your calories and you actually start to feel better because your IT band symptoms are going away because your body actually has the ability to heal after your workouts. Um, do not feel like you are going to gain a ton of weight by bumping up your calories. You have to come out of a deficit. If you're on a weight loss deficit, you have to come out of a deficit as well. But that's a whole different conversation. All right, role of good quality sleep here. If you guys have been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you've noticed that I talk about sleep quite a bit. Um, all right, so the role of sleep, especially in terms of performance, it is the only time that our body recovers. It is the only time that our body is given the chance to completely unwind and go through a process that recycles everything, hormones, gets rid of the bad stuff and enhances the good stuff as far as growth hormone and all that. Um, Sleep is the only time that we are able to truly recover. And if you're not getting good quality sleep, again, it's going to make it very tough for you to enhance your performance. Uh, and if you are enhancing your performance, or if your goal is to enhance your performance, and you know that your sleep is generally not good, like your consistent 6 hours of sleep, you've got kids, you've got a job, you've got everything going on, right? And you can only squeak out at 6 hours. Great. That just means that your progressions in the gym and with your cardio are likely going to be a little bit slower, to give your body the time to adequately adapt. Because the worst thing that you can do is go into a hunt or go into a race or whatever you're doing, go into life with an injury. It's better to be undertrained and injury free than it is to be properly trained but dealing with a nagging injury, because that is likely going to come to a head at some point, and it's usually going to be a week or two, maybe 3 weeks before your race or before your hunt, before whatever you have going on. And now you're going to freak out about that because you're going to have a hard time recovering and you're wondering what to do. And there's not a whole lot that you can do, honestly, to if you develop an overuse injury that short before an event. Because the body's got to go through the natural healing process. Just depends on the severity of the injury. But cannot stress enough the role of good quality sleep. If you guys have questions on sleep, I interviewed a sleep specialist way back when I first started this podcast. I think they launched in I interviewed him in 2023, June or July of 2023, maybe August. But they released in, I think it was March or April of 2024. So you can go to the episodes from earlier last year. I think they're the early teens episodes, and you can check out some sleep stuff there too if you guys want to hear from a sleep specialist if you're sick of hearing from me. But cannot stress enough the role of quality sleep in terms of allowing you to enhance your performance without increasing your chance of an overuse injury. And then in terms of programming, if you're enhancing your performance, if your goal is performance enhancement, there has to be a there has to be a systematic increase in your vertical gain and your mileage, especially for those that are hunting the mountains or trail racing in the mountains, whatever you're doing in the mountains. You cannot increase by 10% on both vertical gain and mileage for very long. Otherwise, you could run into, again, an overuse injury because that's just too much of a progression there on both. Um, with programming. You need to have in the weight room at home in your home gym, whatever you're doing, there needs to be a program emphasis on all things that come with resistance training schemes. So You need to have a phase where you're having an endurance emphasis. You need to have a phase where you're having a hypertrophy emphasis. You need to have a phase where you're having a strength and a power emphasis. And I suggest folks just cycle through those because all of those are super important for endurance athletes. They're all super important for mountain athletes. They're all super important for any athlete looking to do well in the mountains or to do well out west, because Western hunting is compromised of all of those: muscular endurance, muscular strength, and muscular hypertrophy, getting your muscles bigger. That's what hypertrophy is. The Your muscular endurance and your muscular strength and power are going to benefit from having bigger muscles. And for those that are not wanting to look jacked and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or any sort of bodybuilder, you won't, because you're not going to be hitting that phase long enough to really increase the muscle fiber size to that extent. Okay. You're going to just look sexier, is really what it's going to boil down to. And who doesn't want to look sexier naked? So, and then movement variety with the programming. The last bit of programming. The movement variety is, again, I've worked with folks that have gone down the DIY route where they write their own workout routines, and that's what I coach. I coach people how to write their own workout routines because I don't want people relying on me for writing them workouts and me creating a workout and then it's not getting done the way that it needs to get done, and then results aren't had the way that they thought they were going to be had. So I coach people how to write their own workouts simply because they know their own schedule, they know their own routine. They just need to be given the right direction and where to go with their own workout routines. And when I work with folks, the biggest piece I think that is missing is the movement variety in terms of not just a forward lunge or a lateral lunge, but having a curtsy lunge in there, having rotational motions in there at the hips and at the spine. Not a ton, but enough because everything rotates. And I shouldn't say everything. A lot of our joints do have a rotational component to them, and we need to train that. We need to be smart about training that. But um, there are exercises that I coach and that I teach that are going to enhance. It's little nuances that give someone the edge and that can help reduce an injury or reduce the chance of an injury and enhance performance. So having that movement variety is going to be super important to not develop an overuse injury. So that way you can work in all three planes and being coached on how to work in all three planes of motion. All right. I think that's all I've got. I'll stop rambling on. But it's 8:10 here. So hope you guys had a fabulous weekend. So the clinical bottom line in terms of, before I wrap up here, clinical bottom line is you have to choose one. Unless you're new to exercise, and that's within 6 to 12 months, you have to choose one in terms of weight loss or performance. Um, if you're in that 6 to 12 month mark or less in terms of training, you're in a good spot because you can both lose weight and improve your performance at the same time. Do remember that weight loss for some is going to be performance enhancing. So you don't necessarily have to train. Like if you are overweight, but you're like, I'm really trying to get in shape for the mountains, focus on losing weight first, right? Because that plain and simple is going to be performance enhancing in and of itself because you're going to have less weight to lug around the mountains. So that would be number one priority there. And then once you get that down, once you get to a weight where you want to be at, then you can start to focus on performance enhancement. Both of them are going to benefit from lifting weights. Both of them are going to develop from, or both of them are going to benefit from having a consistent exercise routine. Especially the performance enhancement, you have to have an exercise routine for that. But Uh, duh, 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 duh. Okay, that's it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Straight up maintenance. I didn't really touch on maintenance because I was talking about like the weight loss versus performance, but straight up maintenance is a thing as well. You don't have to be, you can be comfortable with your weight and you can be in a spot where you don't really want to eat a ton of food and quote unquote enhance your performance. And that's okay, right? You can simply maintain. There's a range of calories. I believe it's 14 to 16 calories per pound of current body weight is a good range to go from or to go on to maintain your current body weight and then exercise within that, right? If you guys want a deeper dive into this, you guys should check out Valley to Peak Nutrition. Kyle, super awesome guy, has been through a big weight loss journey himself many years ago. and he coaches mountain athletes on weight or on nutrition, right? He doesn't write meal plans because he's not going to tell a grown adult on how to, or what to eat. He is going to coach you on good things to eat and why that is. But definitely check him out if you guys want a super deep dive. Otherwise, we touch on nutrition in the program as well. I think I break it down into four or five different segments, talking about the macronutrients and their role. But we touch on it in the program as well if you guys are wanting a plain and simple look at nutrition as well. All right, guys, have an awesome evening. Have an awesome Sunday night. Tiffany, go to bed. You're still awake. It's almost midnight your time. You guys wondering what I'm talking about? I do this live on Instagram. If you're just listening to the podcast, I do this live on Instagram. So if you are listening on a podcast and you have questions about this stuff, you can tune in live. They're usually Thursday mornings now. You can tune in live and ask questions as I go. But you guys have an awesome night. Leave a podcast review if you have not done that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Please leave a podcast review. I would greatly appreciate that. You don't have to say anything. You can just click 5 stars if you want. Or if you absolutely hate it, shoot me a message before you leave a 1-star review and tell me how I can improve this. But I hope you guys have a great evening, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.